Hey everybody, it's me, Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie. On this episode of CD Junkie, I'm going to be talking about Colin Hay and, of course, the band that he fronted called Men at Work. Now, how did I get into Men at Work and Colin Hay? Well, it all goes back to about 1981. I was a junior in high school, and I was riding with a friend, and we were listening to the radio and talking. And all of a sudden, I hear the song in the background, and I'm thinking, wow, what is that? We were listening to KROQ. Turn it up. And I heard the song and I go, oh my God, this is awesome. What is this? And we waited until they back announced the songs, and we found out it was a song called Who Can It Be Now by Men at Work. And I knew at that moment I needed to get that album. And we're starting off this episode of CD Junkie with that first album. I just want to tell you that I'm only covering studio releases, no live albums, no compilations, just studio albums by Men at Work and Colin Hay. We're starting off with 1981's Business as Usual, one of the finest albums in one of the worst album covers. I don't know. I think they put this thing together. They didn't expect it to be this worldwide smash. But this is the album that contains Who Can It Be Now and Down Under and Be Good Johnny and I Can See It in Your Eyes. Oh gosh, a lot of great songs on there. Helpless Automaton, People Just Love to Play with Words. It's just a fine album. This is the remastered edition with bonus tracks. Now, the band at this time was Colin Hay on vocals and guitar, Jerry Spicer on drums, Greg Ham on flutes and woodwinds and other various instruments and backing vocals, Ron Streichert on guitar, and John Rees on bass. And they just came out of nowhere, and they sort of kickstarted this whole Australian movement. All of a sudden, labels were just really pushing bands like Mental as Anything and giving an extra push to Split Enz, who were actually from New Zealand via Australia. But, anyway, this was a big success, and deservedly so. In 1983, out comes their second album, Cargo, and this has a slightly better album cover, and it's not as great as Business as Usual, but it's still a fine album. It contains one of my favorite Colin Hay songs of all time, Overkill. I think a lot of you are already familiar with that. But there's also Settle Down My Boy, which is great. It's a Mistake, Dr. Heckle and Mr. Jive, I like too, and this is the bonus track edition. 1985, out comes the third Men at Work album. By this time, the band was down to a trio. They had lost their rhythm section of Jerry Spicer and John Rees, and it was just Colin Hay, Greg Ham, and Ron Streichert. I think by the time the album came out, I think Ron left the band, so it was just really Colin and Greg who did like the videos and stuff. Now, this album is very slick. Where the first albums were more kind of rootsy and sort of boots on the ground, down to earth. This album was buried in a lot of overproduction, but there are some great songs on here, like the title track, Everything I Need, Children on Parade. But this was actually the last Men at Work album. The band split after this. 2 years later, Colin returned as Colin James Hay with his first solo album called Looking for Jack, and it was produced by Robin Millar, the same person that did like Sade and stuff, but it was still kind of heavy into that 80s overproduction, sort of carrying over from the previous Men at Work album, but still a lot of great songs like Hold Me and Can I Hold You, Looking for Jack. You can kind of tell in a way with this overproduced 80s sound that what Colin needed to do in order to get his songs heard was return back to his rootsy sound, which is what he did in 1990 with the Colin James Hay Band and the album called Wayfaring Sons. This is definitely the link between his pop past and his folk-leaning future, and this is really a fine album. Title track is great, Into My Life, a lot of great songs on there. This is pretty much a transition album because 2 years later, out comes the album Peaks and Valleys, and this is a completely acoustic album of new material. He's not going back and redoing his old songs. It's just him and acoustic guitar all in one take, and it sounds wonderful. Even though the songs have been stripped of any instrumentation, it's just filled with depth and emotion, and he's really connecting to the listener in this music. Great songs like Into the Cornfields, She Keeps Me Dreaming, which is a duet with Deborah Conway. Walk Amongst His Ruins. Oh my gosh. Keep on Walking. Fantastic collection. If you like your music acoustic, no ifs, ands, or buts. It's Colin and a guitar, and it's wonderful. His songwriting is getting deeper, and his voice continues to just become this magnificent tool for him to communicate with. 1994, out comes Topanga, another Fine, fine album. This is still heading in that acoustic direction, but he has a band with him, so it's a mix of acoustic and rock. And while there may not be a Who Can It Be Now or an Overkill on this album, it's probably his most consistently great album up to this point, which is 1994. He does that song Into the Cornfields that he did acoustically on the last album, but he does it with a band, and it's actually even better here. He also does I Haven't Seen You in a Long Time, I Don't Miss You Now, and this is the first appearance of the song Waiting for My Real Life to Begin, which has become pretty much his anthem, his calling card. So if Down Under or Overkill or Who Can It Be Now were his calling cards for Men at Work, Waiting for My Real Life to Begin is really the cornerstone of his solo career. It's absolutely fantastic, and this album deserves a lot of love. Transcendental Highway came out in 1998. Title track is great. He's adding kind of modern rhythms to the music, but he's still keeping it fresh and low key, and it's really a fine, fine album. Other great tracks include I Just Don't Think I'll Ever Get Over You, Goodbye My Red Rose, My Brilliant Feet, another great collection of songs. This is an artist that maybe has seen his commercial prime in his past, but artistically continues to get better and better. Going Somewhere came out in 2001. This is sort of a companion CD to the Peaks and Valleys. That was all acoustic. This album is all acoustic. It's not all new material. He does some older songs on this, but he mixes everything around, and really great. Beautiful World. I think this is the first appearance of that song, and that's just beautiful and amazing. Going Somewhere, Children on Parade, the Men at Work song. The CD has a radio edit of Waiting for My Real Life to Begin. Like I said, not a band album, it's an acoustic album, but still filled with emotion, and it's raw emotion, it's real emotion. An incredible singer-songwriter. His next album, called Company of Strangers, came out in 2002. Another fine collection of songs, as I always say about Colin Hay. This one has like Small Town Big Hell, the title track, No Win Situation, Dear Jay, and this has a version of Beautiful World, which is really fantastic because the version on the previous album was just acoustic. This is a band version, very rhythmic, and it should have been a massive hit. Now his next album that came out in 2003, if you're a little skeptical on diving into the Colin Hay solo catalog, then you're going to want to maybe get this one first, because this is really going to reveal the heart and the art of Colin Hay to you. And it is called Man at Work, another chiefly acoustic album where he actually goes back, maybe a couple remixes of songs, acoustic versions of Men at Work songs, essentially new versions of stuff from his catalog leading up to this album. So, of course, you're going to get a great acoustic version of Down Under and Overkill and Who Can It Be Now, but you're also going to get a new recording of, let's say, Looking for Jack from his first album, and another mix of That Beautiful World, and I actually like this version even better. Lots of great stuff. So like I said, if you're skeptical about diving into his catalog, this would be the first album to jump on, because you'll immediately click with and understand where he's coming from musically, and you will just need to own everything by him. 2007, out comes Are You Looking at Me? Of course I'm going to love this album. He's an exceptional songwriter. Warm, very personal, very easy to connect with. This album has the title track, of course, and Here in My Hometown, Me and My Imaginary Friend. Great collection of songs. 2009, out comes American Sunshine. You know what I'm going to say about it. Great songs. Highlights on this album include Prison Time, I Came Into Your Store, No Time, Baby Can I See You Tonight, I Can't Get Up Out of This Bed. Colin Hay, 2009. And with 2011's Gathering Mercury, I feel that he came to that moment where he was expressing his heart, his soul, his thoughts, his mind, his emotions, and instantly connecting with the listener in a very intimate and warm way. Such a great album. Send Somebody and Family Man, Invisible, Dear Father, the title track, 500,000 Angels, a absolutely stellar album. This version here has 4 bonus tracks. Everything I'm showing you from Peaks and Valleys onwards, they've all been reissued by Compass Records, and they all feature bonus tracks, and they're definitely worth your time. So Gathering Mercury, that came out in 2011. How is it that an artist 35 years into their career can continue to get better and better? Next Year People came out in 2015. In my opinion, this was his best album to date. It's just filled with so much warmth, humor, honesty, emotion. This has one of my top 5 favorite Colin Hay songs of all time, called Did You Just Take the Long Way Home? But there's also Trying to Get to You, If I'd Been a Better Man, just so many great songs. Scattered to the Sand, Lived in Vain, a really stellar album. I think the album was matched in every way by the album Fierce Mercy. This came out in 2017. Another great collection of songs. This was released 36 years after I bought that first Men at Work album, and he still continues to amaze me. This is more great songs like Come Tumbling Down and Secret Love, Thousand Million Reasons, and of course there's a couple bonus tracks on this as well. Now, since this album, Colin Hay's been working on something new. I believe he's just released a new digital single, so we should see an album hopefully by the end of this year or the beginning of 2021. We really need more music by this gentleman. I know he was touring with the Ringo Starr All-Star Band, and he played on the last Ringo Starr album, but you really need to focus on his solo career. It's nothing like the stuff he does with Ringo, but listening to Colin Hay will make your life brighter and more wonderful. Anyway, that is it. I appreciate you sitting around and letting me talk about Men at Work and Colin Hay. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, and ring that bell for future notifications. I appreciate you, and until next time, remember me, I'm Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie.